This is George Dionne of the Rock is George podcast, and this is a KNAC.com exclusive interview with guitarist JIMI Bell of Demons Down. If I knew absolutely nothing about Demons Down, how would you describe the band's music to me?
Well, it's a brainchild of Frontier Records. They have a lot of these projects they put together, super groups. There's many of them, and they're all good. They take musicians from all, different bands, put them together. That doesn't always work all the time. You could have amazing musicians and put them together and they can't write it's just, it's chemistry, but usually it works out well. I would say it's one of these things, what their mindset was when they did it. They knew I've been in House of Lords for since 2005. And, I've written, most of the songs. I don't write lyrics. I just write music. So what they thought about doing is taking the rhythm section from the original House of Lords, Ken Mary and Chuck Wright, putting them together with me, the other version of House of Lords, and bringing in a new singer and fabulous another guitar player. And what a great combination. It's the vibe they wanted to go for was similar. They wanted to try and create something very much like House of Lords, still like kind of maybe touch on the old roots of House of Lords. A lot of heavy keyboards, which you'll hear, that were all done by Alessandro Del Vecchio. He's the one that produced the project, and he wrote the lyrics, and that's how this started. He called me. They didn't even tell me who was in the band, so I didn't know anything about the project. Mario had messaged me and said, "Hey, you interested in doing a super group?" And I said, "Yeah." So he told me I was to send that Alessandro was going to produce it and to start sending him material. So that's what happened. And then later on, I found out that Chuck and Ken were in the band, and that really grabbed my interest because I always wanted to work with them. I always admired them from the first albums. So this was a great way for us to connect.
And your output is coming out on March 10th called I Stand, and it's out on Frontiers, of course.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you kind of came in late to the band. Was everything kind of written beforehand and they wanted you to just add your stamp on the guitar work?
No, I didn't mean it like that. You misunderstood. I was the first one they contacted, but I didn't know. They just didn't tell me who else they had in mind, who they were thinking about for the project. That is something I found out later. But, I wrote a good amount of material. Like I wrote I Stand, the music to that. And for the new video that just got released on Valentine's Day, Disappear, I wrote that track. And there's others on there. There is a couple of songs from other writers out there. But I think I played lead guitar on everything, even the stuff I didn't write, except for one song, I think.
Okay. In the modern day of putting albums together, obviously everybody's tied up and in different parts of the world and stuff like that. I'm assuming that you guys didn't actually get into a room to do this, and this was more of a back and forth thing.
Yeah, I haven't been in an actual recording studio with a band with a full band. Is not one single House of Lords record has been done in the studio together. None of them. It's been years, like maybe the early, I don't even know when I could tell you, maybe 2000 or 1999 was the last time I was actually in the studio with everybody all in the same room doing something. It's very convenient because it opens up a lot. It has its pluses and downsides as well, because there's something about being in a room with your band and you're creating in a studio environment, which is very, very cool. And I miss that. But the way that you are nowadays, you have the option of doing a lot of different projects and collaborating with a lot of different musicians like this, writing your own stuff. Like I have my own little studio here, which I didn't need for the longest time because with House of Lords, the drummer, BJ Zampa. He lived 10 minutes down the road from me, so I never needed my own studio. But then, he's been playing with Dokken lately. So, anything that we started to do later on for House of Lords, I just said, you know what, I better get my own thing. And of course, I wrote the autograph album here and everything else. So, it came to a point where I needed to have this. And it comes in, I should have had it years ago. I'm just a fool.
Now, this project that you said was set up by the label to kind of sound like classic House of Lords. And if people have been following House of Lords, the modern era of House of Lords is different. It's sort of less of the keyboards and more kind of 70s style modern rock versus kind of the 80s big choruses version of House of Lords. And you weren't actually in that version of House of Lords. You came in the modern era.
Yeah. I came in in 2005. But what James wanted to do when he contacted me, James Christian, he said he wanted to he was doing a new version of House of Lords, but he wanted to make it slightly more modern sounding with the more guitar orientated, but because obviously he didn't have Greg Giuffria. Greg Giuffria was a big part of the sound, like big elaborate keyboard intros and everything. So we had to kind of shift gears. And now they had done a record. I forgot what year it was before I joined. The record was called Power and the Myth. And even though it was a good record and had a lot of good songs on it, Greg wasn't on that. And the fans didn't accept it as well as what they thought. And even though the songs are good on there, but the fans were, were kind of giving it a hard time. So when James contacted me, he wanted me to do, try and create something here. So, it was funny. He calls me up, because I'm from Connecticut. And he was from Connecticut originally. And he calls me up and says, Jimmy, he says, I'm putting House of Lords together. He says, have you ever written a melodic rock song? And I didn't even know what a melodic rock song was. I just said, yes. Yeah, I've written one. So, but here's the thing. Like, I write, even if I sent James a heavy guitar riff, by the time James plays keyboards, guitars, everything. So by the time he added keyboards onto it, and then he layered all the big harmonies that he does in the choruses and everything, it then became a House of Lords song like that. So when we came out with World Upside Down, it was extremely well received from the House of Lords fans. So we knew that we were at least on the right track there. In fact, it went over bigger than I thought it was gonna. They were like, and I remember it winning, getting the top ratings in a lot of the charts, in the 90s and everything. So I was very pleased with that, the outcome of that. And then we were, once I had my feet, planted, I kind of knew what we were supposed to do. I just kept doing that same formula every record.
And with Demons Down, the name of the project is actually of a House of Lords album that I believe it was their third album. So you're kind of recapturing the classicness of House of Lords here. Are you planning on ever taking this out of the studio at some point?
I'd love to. I would absolutely love to bring this band on the road. And what's even funnier, what you just said, I don't know if you realize it, but not Ken and Chuck nor myself played on the Demons Down record. So it's that one record in between everything that none of us actually played on. So it was kind of like a very good choice for a name. I'm blown away with the singer, James. James, he's just so unbelievable. I've already put it out there to the guys. I said, listen, this is an amazing project. We're all so pleased the way it turned out. And the response I'm getting from the videos when I post, just on my social media and throughout, even when Frontiers posted, has been all positive. It's like, I've had like a lot of people that have known my career, forever since I've been playing, and I'm having some of them are telling me this is the best thing I've ever done in my life, and I'm going, well, geez, I'm 65 years old. This is the best thing I've ever done in my life, you know. But I mean, hey, I don't care. That's great. Whatever.
No, it's a great album. You guys deserve the praise. I was like, which House of Lords am I getting? Because I love you, Jimmy. Love James Christian, but it's not the same House of Lords I grew up with. But
I get
this
it.
this Demons Down is the same House of Lords I grew up with.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. It's a lot of people have a hard time uh, with change. They want to hear things and stuff. So, I mean, listen, if I know the guitars in the last 9 albums have always been a little bit more out there, but that's the way almost we had to go because honestly, um, we couldn't just get somebody to play keys. You couldn't replace Greg Jafria. That would be kind of like even when we went touring, um, like over to Europe and everything. We only had keyboards on tracks because what are you going to do? We're going to go up on stage with someone that's not Greg Jafria. It would be. It's almost like that. You got to balance it. Okay, well the keyboards are coming on tracks, or are we going to bring somebody out there and the fans are going to go, that's not Greg Jafria. So it's like one of those things that you're at you got to try to balance it out. It's very difficult. But I was really grateful that I had become very good friends with Mikel Lupi, who was playing keyboards for Whitesnake, and he was a House of Lords fan as a kid. So I managed to get Mikel Lupi on the last couple House of Lords records. He contributed keyboards to, like, he wrote some big intros for something. I think it was. He's on Saints and Sinners, and he's also on the New World, New Eyes album. So you'll hear like more on at least one or two songs. You'll hear something from him that's pretty amazing. He's a great keyboard player and a wonderful person.
And of course, you did release a House of Lords album within the last year, and that was Saints and Sinners. And that on keyboards, Mark Mangold. He's no slouch either.
He's doing
he's been
great.
around the block.
Yeah, so that was another concept of what we're going for here. We wanted to we said, okay, let's really push the keyboards now as much as we can on this record, which is cool. There's half the songs on there. When I was playing them, recording them, I said, man, this is just so cool. This is different, and I love it. Mark's a great keyboard player, great musician, really, really is.
Absolutely, and he's got American Tears, and he's got 20 other projects that's always keeping him busy. So I think it's pretty good to have him in lieu of Greg. But what I've always wondered is Greg just sick of the grind? Why doesn't he like to jump back into these things?
Oh, he doesn't need this. Greg makes Greg made really good money doing other things and stuff. It comes to a point in some people's life where they might have, that they've had enough. And they don't need this. Kind of like I'll give you a perfect example is Steve Plunkett from Autograph. He left Autograph and did very, very well just doing jingles and stuff. And it's always a nightmare just for a lot of reasons. So when they got back together in whatever year, 2013, he declined. That's why Simon ended up in the band. That's why Simon's been in the band for 10 years. He just didn't want to do it anymore. He had his day. That was it. He did way better on his own. So some people just don't want to deal with it anymore. Look at, like I said, I'm 65 years old and I'm doing this. I'm a hired gun for Autograph. I've been with them for 3 years, and I play, I got asked to play guitar for them, and 65, running through airports trying to get connection flights and hoping you're not going to miss your connector. It gets kind of rough, and I'm carrying two guitars on my back and a double bag, and because I'm left-handed, number one. I play guitar left-handed. So I can't take a chance on them not showing up at a gig. So I take them, I get them so I can put them in the overheads right on the plane, because I can't just show up a gig and my guitars didn't show up for some reason, or to show up late now. And I say, oh, I need a couple left-handed guitars. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen.
So this has been a busy last 12 months for you with the Demons Down project, and obviously House of Lords, and also Autograph. You had an album earlier last year called Beyond. Unfortunately, you lost a longtime member in the process of putting the album together.
Randy and I had become best of friends. Really, he was the most wonderful person. He's the one that, had contacted me about joining, because I kind of knew him. I kind of met the guys. And it was just we built a wonderful friendship, brotherhood, I would say, because him and I got very close. When Randy and I were on stage, we interacted together all the time. We were like joking, laughing. We became like best buddies. He'd constantly walk over to me and stuff. So even though I didn't get a chance to know him for a long, long time, those 3+ years were an amazing time, and we had built a wonderful friendship together, and a good working relationship too. He's a fabulous bass player, and what's amazing is that he put his heart and soul into that Beyond record. He was so proud of every song. Every time I sent him an idea, he loved it, and then Simon would do the lyrics. And I mean, if it just can't believe, like, he played so great on it. It's it's just so sad that that was his last record of his life. But at least it's something that he could be very, very proud of, and because he really, really did play outstanding on it. And it was weird, we finished the album. Let me just tell you, we had a deadline to the end of April to finish the record. Well, we were working so fast, we finished it 2 weeks prior. We had all the artwork done, all the artwork for the CD, everything. Everything was done. All the mastering of the tracks. We sent it in, the bonus track for Japan, all that, everything was sent in. And then, Randy's the one that sent it in. And then 2 weeks after, he passed away suddenly. And it was just like, it just took us so, like, I want to say by surprise, but we were in total shock, I'll never forget when Simon called me to tell me what was going on. I was walking into a show to see Jason Bonham play, and my phone was going off, and he said, "Jimmy, I have to talk to you." And I said, "Well, let me just go in first, because I'm in the front row. I gotta go be seated and get my whatever." And then I said, "I'll come right back out." And then he told me, and it was like I had to go back in to that show and just pretend like everything was okay, like I didn't, because I couldn't let the people know that there was something wrong. I had to pretend like, and my mind, I couldn't even concentrate what was going on. I was so devastated. Randy meant the world to me, and it was just like a total shock. It was terrible. But I'm so grateful. I'm very, very grateful he played on this whole record. And it's great that he got to turn it in, and
is Autograph going to continue making music after all of this? Because I know there's been a little bit of drama that has followed.
Oh yeah, there's always drama. Passing. Yeah, there's always drama. Every band has drama. What are you going to do? I listen. I write all the time. I'm involved in a lot of projects. Okay, I write constantly. I have enough music for. I have a whole bunch of other tracks that I write. When I write in my studio, when I'm writing a song, I always write to what the singer is like or what the band is like. So if I'm writing a song that I think fits Autograph, I'll title it Auto / and then I'll put the key in and the tempo and everything. I got a whole mountain of them in here, ready to go in case. But if not, they'll go to somebody else. But I mean, it's just like I'm ready to go if it happens. So, hey, fine. We have a lot of shows booked. Um, so, whatever. I don't mean to make it sound like that, but that's the way it is. I like doing all these other things. That's why I like the position I'm in with these bands. Even with House of Lords, I've been in the band for 17, 18 years. If you really think about it, I get a certain amount of money, and I get paid to do the records, just like Autograph. I make a certain amount. I'm not a partner in that band. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's good for me to be like that because it keeps me open to do all these other things as well. I guess if I was a definite partner in something, I might feel a little guilty taking on a different project. That's just my mindset.
No, that's a good mindset to have currently, where everybody's working on other projects and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I
it's not like the old days. You remember the old days in the 80s and stuff. A band was a band. Like
absolutely
it was almost next to impossible to change a member of a band. It was in the early 80s. Like, look, I love the Motley Crue album with John Corabi. I think it's phenomenal. But I mean, look at what you're against. Even look at replacing Brian Johnson with Bon Scott. That was but Bon Scott passed away. That was a big move, but it pulled off incredible. But it's always risky, especially back then in those days, to change somebody. It was really unheard of. A band was a band. That was pretty much the way it was, unless somebody passed away.
right. You also have a Deep Purple cover band called Beyond Purple.
Yeah,
And you,
it's a tribute to the Deep Purple family tree, though. So what we do is we play Deep Purple. I hit on all the singers, Rod Evans, Ian Gillan, and Coverdale. But then we branch off into Rainbow with Dio, Graham Bonnet, and Joe Lynn Turner, and then Dio on his own, and then we do a whole bunch of Whitesnake. And when we play the Whitesnake, that's the stuff the girls go nuts over. So it's like, so that's the way it is. We always look for the girls love Whitesnake. Okay, we'll do a lot of Whitesnake.
I also noticed you have this orchestral meets heavy metal guitar project called Lost Symphony. You've been on a few of those songs.
Yeah, I've been on 3 albums with them. That is absolutely incredible, absolutely amazing. I'm very grateful to the man in charge, Benny Goodman, that put this together. And for getting me on this, I've got to be good friends with David, that used to be the drummer of Pearl Jam. He's on a lot of that stuff, and it was just a great collaboration with a lot of fantastic musicians, people that I would have not ever been on a record. And it was great because when I was down at their studio, they filmed everything I did. They'd always have cameras going so they could make little clips and document everything. So that was very cool. And recently I just did this back in, when I was playing with Geezer Butler back in the day. I wrote the song Master of Insanity, which ended up on a Black Sabbath Dehumanizer record. And I didn't get songwriting credit for it because Tony Iommi would not let a song from another guitar player on. So they had to say Geezer wrote the song. Well, anyways, I went through years, just telling people that I wrote the song and everything. And, I'm an honest guy. People believe me. But finally, Ronnie Dio put it in one of his books that I wrote the song, which was very, very cool. But I guess what I'm leading to is there's a project out there called Emerald Sabbath, and they have a lot of people from Black Sabbath, people that are associated with Black Sabbath on this. So I just re-recorded all my tracks for that song, Master of Insanity. Vinny Appice played the drums on it. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know exactly who they're going to get to sing it. I'm hoping that they get the original singer that was on the in the Geezer Butler project with me, Carl Sentence, who is the singer in Nazareth now. And of course, we had Jez Woodruff from Robert Plant's band, who wrote Little by Little and Big Log and stuff like that. So, could be pretty interesting.
You were inducted into the New England Music Hall of Fame in 2020. How does that process work? Were you chosen? You probably chosen by your peers to be inducted in.
Well, I got to tell you, it was just a weird thing. I was on the road with Autograph. I know exactly where it was. We were doing a gig with Stryper in Verona, New York, at a casino, Stone something. I forgot what the casino's called. And I'm in the hotel room. My phone rings, my cell phone rings, and it's someone from the awards thing, and they're saying, hey, we want to, I talked it over with the board, and, you're highly recommended for being in the New England Music Hall of Fame. And I think it was something new that they were doing. I didn't know too much about it. I know about the Blues Hall of Fame that's here, and that's been around for a while. But so they were doing another branch of it. So yeah, it took a while though, because they had this big award ceremony all set many times. And then, of course, with COVID, everything just kept getting shut down and shut down. So every time we had this ceremony where we're going to perform at and everything, it just never, ever managed to come through. Finally, they managed to get everybody over at this, when things settled a bit with COVID, they got everybody over to this recording studio that's in New Haven, Connecticut. And I remember it was a pouring rain day, like insane, and trying to get into this place and parking. I'm seeing all these cars. Well, I didn't know that there was supposed to be just me and a couple other people that were being inducted. I guess everybody that was being inducted was there at this small studio. So it was stupidly packed in there. And so there was all this stuff going on. So we went downstairs and filmed our acceptance speech down in the basement area where they had a little control room set up. And then they filmed a performance in a studio with me and the drummer, Bobby T, who was inducted. And Bobby T is amazing. He played with Johnny Winter and everything. He's been around. He's a legend from around here. So it was a great experience. So yeah, I got my little award, so it was fun.
I noticed this year they're inducting members of the band Boston, Brad Delp and Sib Hashian. And I also noticed they are inducting the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, which you have something in common with, in that you worked on WWE wrestling themes back between 2004 and 2010.
Yeah, even actually a little longer. I went. I was. I'll tell you real quick. You got time, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was playing a cover band, throughout from 2000, time like that. And I played at a bar, and this bouncer comes over to me afterwards. His name was Mikkel, and he says to me, he goes, "Man, you play guitar really good." He says, "You would do great down at my other job." I go, "Really?" I said, "Where do you work?" He goes, I do camera work for the WWE. And I flipped out, because throughout the 80s, I was always, when they were WWF with Hogan and Randy, Macho Man. And, I was always a huge fan, always from that point, So I was like going, "Oh, please, this would be great." So I gave him a promo pack. Next thing I know, 2 days after he gave the promo pack to the producer, Jim Johnson, who's been there since the 80s, I get a phone call from the WWE. He says, I'd like you to come down and try something out. So I went down there. My mind's being blown now. I'm going down to the WWE, and they have a separate studio, TV studio and recording studio around, not where the corporate headquarters were, but separate from the corporate headquarters. I went down there. I walked into this recording studio. It had everything in the world you could ever imagine, because they were endless money. the WWE. So there was no skimping on like a small studio. This studio was massive, big as any recording studio in the world. And they had everything there. So I walk in, I meet Jim Johnson, who's been there since the 80s. And everything is business. He gave me a quick, intro, and we talked for a little bit. But when I walked in, as I was pulling my guitar out of the case, he's already playing me what has to be done that day. Because they usually call me on a Monday, which is when Monday Night Raw was, or on a Tuesday when they had SmackDown on a Tuesday, or when they moved it to Friday, I would get a call on Friday, and I'd have to so whatever I was doing that day had to be recorded, mixed, everything had to be done to it, so the wrestler would use it that night for his entrance thing. So I'll never forget that experience, going down there, and I flew home, and then Monday Night Raw came on, and then all of a sudden there's my guitar coming out of the TV, and I'm going, the feeling that came over me, it's like, you have millions of people hearing you play guitar at that particular moment all over the world from watching Monday Night Raw. And what's even was the cooler experience was, every time whenever they had wrestling events close to my house, they would give me tickets, and I'd always have either ringside or the first level up where they were shooting the cameras in the private area, right? That one angle that goes straight to the ring. And when you're sitting there, then all of a sudden you hear your entrance music that you played on coming over the big loudspeakers in the Coliseum. It was like, wow, this is so cool. So yeah, it was actually from like 2006 to 2000. I think 2018 might have been the last one, because Jim Johnson hasn't been there for a little bit. Something within the corporation. So once he left, I remember going to his house one other time to record something when he was still kind of with them. Then after that, there wasn't any more. But hey, that was a great run. I'm on a lot of themes, and I'm on a lot of I got some of the pay-per-view events, the opening numbers of the pay-per-view events, and diva searches and all that other stuff. So it was pretty cool.
Now they outsource their music.
Yeah. And I'm on they used to put out wrestlers entrance theme CDs, that they would sell them. I'm on a bunch of those. So that was always cool. It's great.
You're also an inventor. You invented the shred neck little warm-up guitar neck. Brilliant idea. I don't know why someone didn't think of it sooner.
Well, it's kind of, I'll tell you how that happened. It was one of these things. I did something stupid one time. Of course, I busted. This is my fretboard hand because I'm left-handed, and I did something that I popped my knuckle down on my third hand, on my third finger. Sorry, my ring finger. I injured my hand, and I was in a half cast. So I had a half cast on my ring and my pinky, and I only had my first and middle finger open. So I'm such a maniac with practicing. I still practice guitar with just two fingers. I learned all kinds of cool stuff to do with just two fingers. But so after the cast came off, I had it on for about a month and a half, and I wanted to. I didn't, there was a lot of exercisers out there, like they had these things that had springs on it. And so, every time I would try one of those, when I stopped using it, my hand felt tight. And I said, well, geez, that's not what my hand feels like after I play guitar. When I'm done playing guitar for an hour, 2 hours, my fingers are loose, So I said, I want to think of something that that has real strings on it. Just something I could, like a half a guitar neck that has real strings, and that I could just move my fingers back and forth on. So it's all it is an exercise machine. You can't tune it up to play. which is, people don't understand that. This thing is like working out with weights or any other kind of exercise we do. This is to keep your fingers limber. The reason I have tuning gears on it is some people like very loose tension strings or very tight tension strings. So it has 7 frets on it, and you could just practice stretches. But what I like to do with it is I take it in my car, like especially, we're talking about WWE. When I was heading down, I live in, around the Hartford, Connecticut area, very close to that. And Stamford is where the WWE is. That's an hour drive for me. So all the way down to the WWE, I'm driving. I got this thing in my lap, just, running my fingers, warming up my hands. And it worked great because it had real strings. And the best thing about it is you could keep your calluses strong, because the strings, those who play guitar know that you get calluses at the end of it. And if you don't use your fingers enough, the calluses will first harden, and then they start to peel away. I have so much callus built up on the tips of my fingers that it's actually soft now, but there's this much extra skin at the ends of all my fingers just from all the years of practicing. So it's that's what it's like.
Do you see anybody today that plays the guitar like the guys coming up in the 80s and the 90s, the shred, the super fast playing? I'm just not seeing it or hearing it a lot anymore. It seems like it's a dying art.
Well, I don't know. I got to tell you, it was definitely a dying art for a long time when the 90s came. I mean, when the music from the 90s came, it was almost forbidden to do a guitar solo in a song. Like I know, I've known the guys from Stained for a long time, and Mike, the guitar player, was a shred guy. That guy could really play. But in Stained, it was just all big, big power chords, drop, stuff like that. So the music was different. It wasn't called for guitar solos. Then guitar solos started coming in more and more. And, nowadays it's really strange, because if you look on YouTube, it's almost sickening, because there is a lot of guitar players that are shredding unbelievable. Like I see these young kids, and a lot of them from overseas in Asia. These little kids from Asia, or wherever, Japan and stuff. I put on YouTube and I see this, 10-year-old kid that's blowing my doors in on guitar. I'm sitting there looking, I'm going, what is going on here? I don't understand. What is it? The water they're drinking? What is it? But the talent for a lot of these guys are just unbelievable. And I think a lot of the young players all went back to the 80s stuff. Like, there's a lot of guitar players that were searching they wanted to be creative again. And so they all went back and revisited George Lynch and all these other guys that were, known as monster guitar players. Yngwie Malmsteen, for example, like a lot of the cats, all of a sudden, started coming out and, jumping on that neoclassical style, which is a cool thing if you want to learn it. But I always tell people, I don't recommend doing anything like that. I don't recommend sitting and really concentrating on copying somebody, because you got to have your own style. Because if you don't have your own style of guitar playing, you're always going to get compared to the person who you're copying. Like there's all these amazing, like I said, there's all these amazing neoclassical players that are out there. But every time you hear one of them, someone will say, "Oh, it sounds like Yngwie." That's the way Yngwie plays. I wouldn't want that. You want to be identified as your own player. You don't want to copy anybody. That's why even back in the day, before I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is because of the fact what is offered to the young guitar players nowadays. You have YouTube. You have all these sites that you can learn to play guitar. You want to learn something, you type it in what you're looking for, and there's a thousand versions of it up there. Guys playing it slow, note for note. When I was growing up, and I was playing guitar back in the 70s and stuff. There wasn't a computer. There wasn't any of that stuff. I had a record player, and then later on, I got a cassette machine. And when I was trying to learn with a record player, I had to keep putting the needle back and forth on the Deep Purple Machine Head record because I was trying to learn Ritchie Blackmore's Highway Star solo. I kept putting it back, you know. I even tried slowing the record down to speed 16. And of course, that didn't cut it in half. It just brought it down and made it sound like, whoa, you know, like it was on drugs or something, you know. Yeah, like I was in a time warp trying to learn this. But you know, so it was but that was a good thing for me because honestly, I developed my ear and it made me not learn anything note for note. So for example, if I was trying to learn something Ritchie Blackmore did and I couldn't get it note for note, I would create something that I thought sounded very close to it. So by doing that and continually doing that for other things, I created my own style. And that's the one biggest compliment I get when people say, what's the biggest compliment of your life? I get it all the time that I don't sound like any other guitar player. I have my own style. So that to me, you couldn't get a better compliment than that because that's really what I work for. I never wanted to be, you know, I never want anybody to say, oh, Jimmy Bell, he sounds like this guy. You know, I just, you know, you want to be somebody your own and unique if you can, you know.
Absolutely. And I think you've accomplished that, Jimmy. And I had a great time learning about your career and the brief moment we had together. And the latest.
Did I talk your ear off? I talked your ear off.
No,
sorry.
You didn't at all. Believe me, I could have talked to you about so many other things and I had to cut it down because your career is so vast.
Well, if you ever want to do another interview, I have no problem because I've had to do this all along with so many of the other people because their interviews stop and they say, "Oh, I didn't get enough. I didn't get enough of this." You know. So if you need to book another one, you got a bunch more questions, please just contact the people involved, and I'll be more than happy to come back on your show. I had a blast.
Well, at your current work rate, Jimmy, I'm sure I could work it in on your next project that comes out.
Yeah. Hey, listen, when I was the House of Lords, Autograph, and Demons Down records, I was doing all of those at the same time, if you could believe that. Writing for 3 different projects all at once. That was insane. That was crazy.
Well, the current project is Demons Down. It comes out March 10th. The name of the album is I Stand. You have House of Lords, you have Autograph, you have Beyond Purple. You're keeping yourself busy, and I look forward to see what you got next.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being on here with you. Honest, I really had a great time.